Radha Madhava ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gambhira, would you mind is this the English version you have? And does Kishore Kun have the English version? Und wo ist the English version? Behind me. Aha, super. So Pausalo. I didn't memorize the verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasham Tato Jayamudivayat. So today, thank you very much for coming. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17, Text 15. We will go from text 15 to text 18 because only because there is no purport. It is here. So, sorry. The chapter is called Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. Okay. Tamadvadavattanvanyaha. Gopi, Tamadvadavattanvanyaha. Tamadvadavattanvanyaha. Gopito taranyukshanaha. Gopito tarunakshanaha. Gopito tarunakshanaha. Sharuni Danushi Sandaya, Sharam Danushi Sandaya, Sharam Danushi Sandaya, Yatya Yatra Palayate, Yatra Yatra Palayate. Robin? Tamadvaravattanvanya Kupito Tarunekshanaha Sharam Danushi Sandaya Jayatra Palayate Tamadvaravattanvanya Kupito Taruna Shanaha Saram Danushi Sandaya Yatya Yatra Palayate Tamadvaravattanvanya Kupito Taruna Shanaha Sharam Danushi Sandaya Yatra Yatra Palayate Kupita Taranukshanaha Sharam Danushi Sandaya Yatra Yatra Palayate Tam, the cow-shaped earth, Advadavat, he chased, Tat, then, Vanyaha, the son of King Vena, Kupitaha, being very much angry, Ati Aruna, very red, Ikshanaha, his eyes, Sharam, an arrow, Danushi, on the bow, Sandaya, placing, Yatra Yatra, wherever, Palayate, she flees. Translation. Seeing this, Maharaj Prithu became very angry, and his eyes became as red as the early morning sun. Placing an arrow on his bow, he chased the cow-shaped earth wherever she would run. Text 16. Sadisho vidisho devi rodashita tadam tayo bhavanti tatra tatrenam dada shanudayata yudam. Translation. The cow-shaped earth ran here and there in outer space between the heavenly planets and the earth, and wherever she ran, the king chased her with his bow and arrows. Text 17. Loke davindata tranam vanyam pritova prajaha trashtatara nivavritte hijina viduyata. Just, translation, just as a man cannot escape the cruel hands of death, the cow-shaped earth could not escape the hands of the son of Vena. At length, the earth, fearful, her heart aggrieved, turned back in helplessness. Text 18. Uvachacha mahabhagam dharma janapana vatsala trahi mamapi bhutanam palanavashtito pavan. Translation. Addressing the great opulent King Prithu as the knower of religious principles and shelter of the surrendered, she said, "Please save me. You are the protector of all living entities. Now you are situated as the king of this planet." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The cow-shaped earth addressed King Prithu as Dharma Jnana, which refers to one who knows the principles of religion. The principles of religion dictate that a woman, a cow, a child, a brahmana, and an old man must be given all protection by the cow or anyone else. Sorry, it's always good to do this before the class begins, sorry, because then we lose the point. Okay, purport, let's go again. The cow-shaped earth addressed King Prithu as Dharma Jnana, which refers to one who knows the principle of religion. The principles of religion dictate that a woman, a cow, a child, a brahmana, and an old man must be given all protection by the king or anyone else. Consequently, Mother Earth took the shape of a cow. She was also a woman. First, she appealed to the king as one who knows the principles of religion. Religious principles also dictate that one is not to be killed if he surrenders. She reminded King Prithu that not only was he an incarnation of God, but he was situated as the king of the earth as well. Therefore, his duty was to excuse her. Om Gyanda Marandascha Jnana Salakya Chakshunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Sapadandikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasvati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So I run by these translations quickly from number 15. I mean, just to back up, the title of this verse, as we heard, is Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. Just for those who were not here on other days, basically there is a shortage of grains, and the citizens of King Prithu have come to him, and he deliberates over quite some time, and he understands that the earth is at fault. This is why he's very angry at this moment. And he, in the previous verse, he took his bow and arrow and is about to kill her, right? So this is where we enter into text 15. So seeing this, then Mother Earth, she becomes afraid and she runs very swiftly, and she takes the shape of a cow to enable her to run. So seeing this, Maharaj Prithu became very angry, and his eyes became as red as the early morning sun. Placing an arrow on his bow, he chased the cow-shaped earth wherever she would run. The cow-shaped earth ran here and there in outer space between the heavenly planets and the earth, and wherever she ran, the king chased her with his bow and arrows. Just as a man cannot escape the cruel hands of death, the cow-shaped earth could not escape the hands of the son of Vena. At length the earth, fearful, her heart aggrieved, turned back in helplessness. Addressing the great opulent King Prithu as the knower of religious principles and shelter of the surrendered, she said, "Please save me. You are the protector of all living entities. Now you are situated as the king of this planet." So we have very interesting lines here, because Prabhupada goes on to talk in the purport that he gives to text 18, that a woman, a cow, a child, a brahmana, an old woman must be given protection. Now it says in Kali Yuga, as things degrade, that this level of protection is missing. However, in the time of King Prithu, he was chosen and seen and glorified in previous verses we heard for being very noble and pious. Let's see. It says from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, why is it that these different classes are given protection? So the protection of a brahmana, it says, maintains the institution of varna and ashram, the most scientific culture for the attainment of spiritual life. By protecting the cows, we maintain, it says, the most miraculous form of food, i.e. milk, for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain, for understanding higher aims of life. The protection of women is there to maintain the chastity of society, by which we get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. The protection of children gives a human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. This protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child. And the protection of old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves better for better life after death. That's what it writes here. So that's from the Srimad Bhagavatam 185, the purport there. So we can understand this level, and we can understand in some sense children, elderly people, they are, say, not as strong as maybe a general force of people. And we've often heard also that ladies should be protected. One question that came up is, what does it mean to be protected? What does it mean to protect a woman or to protect anyone? And often in my years here, more than a decade, often the Matajis approach me and have said that they don't feel quite protected here and they haven't felt safe here. And I have sometimes or often given that comment over, and sometimes the Prabhu say, okay, we need to protect the Matajis, we need to make them feel safe. But sometimes I wonder if we don't understand what that means, like what is it? So just for a moment, would you please think about this idea? What does it mean? What would make you feel protected as a lady? What would it feel like to protect a lady or protect any of these categories here? I speak in reference to a woman because Mother Earth in this form of a cow appeals to King Prithu as a woman, and also she takes the shape of a cow, so also protection of the cow is here. What does it mean to feel protected and to feel safe? Does anybody have any thoughts that come to mind? Even if they're not quite sure or something like this, is it something that they thought about? Because sometimes it can be that one says, I don't feel protected, but you're like, how? And you're, don't know, just don't feel it, not sure what's going on here. Because here, and you'll find many, many times in Srila Prabhupada's books, it talks about the protection of women and the protection of cows, children, brahmanas, and the elderly. Aha, Kishori Kund. Do we have a mic for her, Robin? We have, aha. We have good techie people here. Ready? Please ponder over it for a moment. The idea behind it is if we don't know what we need or see, it's hard for others to actually give us that. Kishori Kund.
Ja, schon in der Bibel steht, dass Frauen unter Schutz des Mannes stehen sollten. Also wenn die Frau ihren Mann verliert.
Ein ich muss das übersetzen. Gambir, would you mind to translate it also on the microphone?
Also in the Bible is written that women should be protected by men.
Wenn der Mann den Körper aufgibt, dann sollte sich ein anderes männliches Mitglied aus der Familie um die Frau kümmern.
When the man gives up the body, another male member of the family should protect the woman of the family.
Frauen sollten nicht im Dunkeln alleine auf die Straße gehen und sich in solchen Gebieten aufhalten, wo kein Schutz besteht.
Women shouldn't go in the evening, in the night outside, and when it's dark, and yeah.
Ja, und sie sollten, was dass der Mann ihr sagt, mit Beachten in ihrem Leben, in ihrer Lebensweise. Ich habe selber die Erfahrung gemacht, wir waren im Wald, Pilze suchen, und dann kam ein Mann, ich habe ja mit meinem Mann nicht immer zusammen nebeneinander Pilze gesucht, der eine war dann da, der andere da, und dann kam da ein Mann in der Nähe auf mich, nicht direkt zu, aber guckte dann schon immer so und dann hat sich mein Mann mit ihm unterhalten und er hielt immer die Hände auf dem Rücken. Also das ist so eine Gefahrensquelle. Mein Mann, der hat das gleich durchschaut. Für mich war das ein anderer, der war auch Pilze sucht.
Okay, women should follow the instruction of men. Once Kishori Kund was with her husband in the woods, searching for, what's the word? Pilze. Mushrooms. And there came another man.
Ja, und mein Mann hat das gleich irgendwie mitbekommen und ist dann zu ihm hin, hat sich mit ihm unterhalten und der hielt immer die Hände auf dem Rücken. Also hat er nachher festgestellt, ein besserer Erinnerung gehabt.
Oh. And this man had a knife behind his back in his hands, and Kishori Kund's husband went to him and talked to him.
Ja, hat mit ihm geredet und ich bin dann ein Stück weitergegangen und irgendwie, nachdem er so meinen Mann gemustert hat, vor einer Konstitution, glaube ich, ist er dann nachher weitergegangen. Aber das sind so Gefahrenquellen, wenn man irgendwo alleine ist, wo sich keine anderen Menschen begeben oder so schnell zu erwarten sind, dann sind das immer schon Gefahrenquellen und das sollte eine Frau dann alleine meiden. Also ich bin hier alleine.
Because Kishori Kund's husband was stronger than this man, he gave up his plan or whatever plan he had, and he just, he was gone then. And because such things could happen to women should be protected.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Kishori Kund. Vielen Dank. So this is like the purport is often also in our Shastra. We can read it a few times. For example, I have here from the purport of Bhagavad Gita 16:17. Prabhupada states, actually a woman should be given protection at every stage of life. She should be given protection by the father in her younger days, by the husband in her youth, and by the grown-up sons in her old age. This is the proper social behavior according to the Manu Samhita. So we've heard this before, and Kishori Kund's example was that external protection. ISKCON has adopted in terms of, say, for example, child protection. They've used the terminology what's used in sort of by the social state. So you have 4 categories there when you look at child protection. You have sexual abuse, physical abuse, No, these are the 4 states. So if you will go and work in the, maybe also in German, but definitely in England, they cover these categories. One is neglect, one is sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and physical abuse. Yeah. So these are the levels of protection that we covered. So physical abuse is, for example, if, as in Kishori Kund's example, somebody is unprotected, right? Somebody comes. But it's interesting because it's also seen in regards of children, this element of neglect is a category where you would put a child, the terminology is you would put them under the child in need category. And they would fall under the child protection register and maybe be taken off if this was not then removed in their title. And neglect is actually the most widely level of how children are seen as unprotected. Neglect is often there's one article, a big document actually, of devotee care, And within our society, neglect also falls in those grounds. So for example, neglect is when a parent may be doing something like service for a long time and the child is left alone for many, many hours, a young child. They're seen as, okay, they want to do service, but the child is then left to their own devices, as young as, 2, 3, 4. And over the time, and often when I meet devotee children, so to say, as they get older, one becomes aware of sometimes their sort of standoffishness to the religious movement, because for them it was that Krishna took their parents away. That's sometimes the feedback that I've received. So in that way, there is those levels. I've also heard when you go into adult protection, often the first 3 criteria work. I'm not sure so much in terms of neglect, but what it means ideally in terms of protection sometimes is being neglectful of the needs of other people. Within Simhachalam, touch wood, I would like to say, luckily enough, we haven't had any examples in the case to do with women and others which fall under these high cases of abuse or things that maybe in bigger places they've had. Gita? Please.
Yeah, I was also thinking, like when she was saying, this is more like on a physical, external level, like really bad things happening, like abuse in that sense. But when you spoke about this neglect thing, that's actually what I was thinking about, that the protection is also on a more subtle level, and like specifically like in a temple context could be seen as how we're able to coexist with each other, like the women and the men, and that we don't feel like we're sidelined or less important or have to stand in the back or not be able to do the things that we would like to do.
You feel sidelined sometimes, right? Yeah. One's a little shy to talk on this topic. One feels a little shy. I say that because Gita is quite a confident young lady. So but this topic is interestingly one which, to be honest, I'm quite shy about and even a little bit afraid to talk about. But in a society where we are talking about religious principles, this very element of speaking about things, the idea of having open communication can also help. So this is the point where, funnily enough, when I was fed back this line of information, especially looking over the ashram for years or just being around in a community, often this sort of information will come to me. And then one sort of feeds it over. And sometimes it wasn't met with so gladly. Often it was met with, okay, Gopi Gita has this issue, a personal issue. And I was thinking, well, no, actually my husband protects me. I feel protected by my husband. I have no concerns. But sometimes one does feel a little bit like shoot the messenger. Yeah. So in understanding this, it was only last year, Bhakti Vasudev Swami was here. And it was within a darshan. I was there just to support another a lady in the ashram, as you know. And he mentioned, actually, the protection of women should come from other men. The idea of speaking up should ideally come from other Prabhus seeing and reporting that that information back. And recently he conducted an anonymous research survey to understand more of what it was like. And we are talking about, I would say, more on these more subtle levels of neglect or abuse, of how ladies are not feeling so well. Like, so the ladies who came to me in the years here, it was nothing gross, you know, they were not saying, wow, I feel like someone's about to hit me or do anything. Nothing like this. It was much more on this sort of subtle level of being. They felt like their place should be at the very back, or maybe they shouldn't speak up, or sometimes they'd been directly expressed in words what that meant. So what does it mean then, to protect? To protect, that feeling of protection is often this level of feeling accepted, one can say, or accepted just as we are. And also, what are the needs? The needs of any society develops and grows, it seems, over time. Once, what the older Matajis I meet, they seem to feel sort of okay here. But most of the comments I have are from, we'd say, maybe from the 20 to maybe late 40 stage. These are the comments, which is a lot of who we get here, actually. It's a majority of the Matajis, and almost all of them are those who are not married. Also, this falls into place. So on this level of protection, understanding what can be given, we are told, really, you can read so much that they should be protected. And I did try to find, and I would be happy if somebody saw something of what this protection, how this protection takes shape. I was raised in an Indian so-called Vaishnava family, so definitely my father played that role as a protector. If anything was needed in terms of security, money, wealth, whatever, this was that role. Then there was this gap, a huge gap between when my father passed, or I was left to university and passed away, to when I got married. This whole stage. And normal society breeds us to say, women, we try to be independent, we try to do what we can, right? We get by. And if you look back, you're like, well, anyway, nobody's taking care of me, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to take care of myself. Oh, it's like this. We become a little, you can even say we have to become a little macho to survive in this world. However, according to Shastra, that's the point, that there should be protection from another person. You will read, protection does not mean that the woman becomes a slave. This is in this also from 1617. Does not mean that the women are to be kept as slaves. Yes? So they are just given protection. It is also not to mean that women are demeaned. It is that they need to have some level of we're taking the Gita. Sorry, Robin is with the microphone. Sorry, Robin.
Yeah, I was also thinking that protecting women doesn't mean that you should limit them, and like sometimes it can mean like that maybe it's like overprotection, and you feel so suffocated, like you're not allowed to do what you would like to do. So this is also not the point. Like sometimes people maybe interpret it as like that oh, you cannot do that or that because that's dangerous. What if this could happen? But actually, I feel like it could be done in a more healthy way. Like, I mean, different women want to do different things, so it obviously depends on who we're talking about. But if somebody is really like passionate about something, but then the men are like, no, that's, don't do it, then that's also somehow violating that, I feel.
Yes, it's like a balance, right? It's sort of one level there's no protection, so you're left completely open, and the other is then being overly sort of protected, and then you don't know. So it's this medium, this in-between balance is quite hard in fact to reach. Not so long ago, maybe a year or so ago, we had an anonymous poll as well amongst the ladies within the community, and generally they said that they felt okay, but the most, maybe around 70% of those who answered the poll said that there was more that could be done for women to feel safe and protected in the community. And I spoke to a few Prabhus about this, and they were unsure as to what that meant. And then I spoke to the ladies on the other side many more, and they were like, but why don't they know? But I asked a question, maybe we're not entirely sure, even as a society, what that means to be protected, because the shastric way of before isn't the same as it was. For example, even in my mum's age, maybe also Kishorik, ladies got married very young. My mum was married within 16. So she literally went from the protection of father to husband, you know? And then now she lives with my brother, you know, so it's literally followed that line. I got married in my 30s, you know, so it's not a level. And at that time, I told myself, okay, it's okay, because that's the situation that many of the Matajis who come to the ashram and who visit are faced with. But there's other sides beyond it, which is generally here, in this story, the earth appeals to King Prithu as the king. It's appealing in terms of, help me. So she continues, even when she's faced with being killed by his arrows. I'm happy to say it works out in the end, because it seems, you know, it's very angry Maharaj Prithu, who she faces. But with reasoning, she comes forward. There's a nice verse in Bhagavad Gita, as we surely have known from, about women, that of qualities there have wonderful qualities like fine speech, yeah, and often, and intelligence is also mentioned there, but that sometimes there is a way to articulate what happens. For example, the feedback also in terms of protection or how we function as a society or how we live, although it's not given in exact words, it feels that if generally a group of people, so we're not just talking about ordinary women, but a group of Vaishnavis, or it could be also children or whatever else, when there is not the protection, then something has to be done in order to create that. Now it's a big question mark as to what has to be done. And that is the process, I think, that we find ourselves in. We're not talking about, hopefully, in these levels of high abuse, but we're talking about the things in between, the unsaid things of how one can feel normalized in society. One example or one way that we could encourage this is also when we discuss the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, yeah? So that's from CC. So then the first one is that he is kind to everyone. Occasionally the feedback that I've received from ladies, but also sometimes Prabhu, sometimes is that, this person is so unfriendly, they don't even greet, you know, so they don't even do this. So it's this to be kind to everybody. And he does not make anyone his enemy. The worst possible thing that we can do with this is the Prabhus, or the Matajis, or the Grahas. It just makes divide. Prabhupada spent a lot of his time saying, you know, we are not Indian, we are not this, not even this man, woman. All these designations are just something of this material world. We have to understand culturally the place, but not to divide them over. Many times the feedback I've had from the Prabhus is you know, they cannot take when there is this emotional outburst from Matajis without explaining what's needed. And from our ladies' side, we're like, that's us explaining it. What do you mean, you know? But on the other side, we understand when we're calm, we can then rationalize it in a way that they could maybe accept it.
Yeah, I was also thinking that, you talk about communication and that this, things need to be addressed, and when we speak about it, and that's when we come up with possible solutions. But, you know, as you say, the communication is impossible if the woman is emotional and goes to it's like an outburst, you know, then the other person backs off
yes.
This is too much.
Yeah.
So it has to be that the women are sure about exactly what's wrong, and that they don't like bring it up in such an emotional state, and then that the men are just ready to listen also.
Yes,
when,
okay, so
when you approach it in that way.
So that's nice. It's like some practical points so that the woman side should like maybe take some time to cool down with other emotions and then express it in a way which is maybe logical or with intelligence, even with references from Shastra. Actually, Bhaktivasudeva Swami also gave advice in this direction. But she can only present it in an environment where the Prabhus are ready to see it as a conversation rather than any attack in that form. So it's like these two ways of understanding. Yeah, that's like very fair. The third one is always an interesting one for Vaishnava qualities, being truthful. It's said, I think in a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, that to be truthful, to be dharmic with our truth is to express the truth in a way that the other one can handle it. It's not just a case of, well, this is how I feel, this is how it is, I hate you. You know, this is not the element of truthfulness. The truthfulness is an ability of understanding, okay, how can I express this in a way that the other person could take it? The example that we had when, I think someone, Jainitai Prabhu, that was his name, the Dharma counselor, came. He said you could be in a hotel room, and it could be that you've booked your hotel room and you've come, and they've somehow booked you out. They've made a mistake. So you could come, Gita could come, and say, okay, I'm ready to book my room. The person say, sorry, we overbooked. We have no place for you. I'm like, what? No, sorry, that's all I have. You know, it's like completely devastating. Or say Priyasaki comes and she says, oh, I booked this room. And she's like, oh God, I'm terribly sorry. We've overbooked this, but don't worry, we'll find a way to get you another hotel. You know, so it's like somehow you sort of put it in a way which is still the same message, but in a way that softens the blow, so to say. It's the same thing, I think, too. I also realized over time my own mistakes could be that I'll be like, okay, I was trained up working in a charity, but we had to report back to social services. So we had children that we took care of who were under child protection. And in this, if you have to give a police statement, you're not supposed to put your own words in. You're literally meant to say, this person said this is what happened after, and so on. This is how one gives an evidence statement, right? So sometimes I would give this a little bit too much over to management. Well, she said directly this. Huh? So, because I didn't want to interpret it in any way. And of course, one can understand maybe that was not the best way to approach the subject matter, but it was also to do with the training behind it. The truthful, we have to be careful of how we give it over, because most people are trying their best in their situation. Okay, we go down a bit. 11, he is very peaceful. Some very hard to stay peaceful if you feel that you're not taken care of, because if you're in a mode of feeling unprotected, unsafe, you're constantly in like, help me. So it's sort of a situation where one is aiming to be peaceful. What is it that one requires? There are a couple of situations here, they were not terrible, but actually never happened to me before, which was that a Prabhu yelled at me, like very angrily started shouting at me. And I didn't shout back, and I felt afraid. I stood by, like, my viewpoint, because I guess I am a Kshatriya type, and I try not to yell back. But I remember, I did my best in the situation, but one felt very unprotected afterwards, very unprotected. And even when the Prabhu apologized, and they took back the words, and they was very apologetic, it left that aftermath of being shaken, the sort of like a whole. So in terms of understanding, I think it's this element of both sides have to try to be peaceful in the situation. It's funny because also as Vaishnava qualities, it speaks of being meek and also mild. So trying to hold a steady ground in all of these emotions. And even deeper, he offers respect to everyone. It's harder to respect people who show us no respect, but that's exactly what we're asked to do for in this path of bhakti yoga. And it's that main point is not to humiliate us, but it makes us humble in that situation. 22, Vaishnava quality. He is merciful. So on our side, on one side of those unprivileged, merciful on those who maybe have not protected us, and on the other side, say as a mother to a child, or a Prabhu to a Mataji, we should be merciful in terms of what goes on. If you read further in the text here, you will see that Mother Earth says, this is text 20, even if a woman does commit some sinful activity, no one should place his hand upon her. You know? So, and she appeals to him being merciful later on in this. It's like this. The hand that we place on people is not just through physical contact, but the hand we place is also through violent words, right, too. So one has to be careful in how we are with each other. Prabhupada writes in regards to the 26 qualifications, it's from the 3rd canto, 16.5. The devotee's duty is to be always conscious in his dealings with others, especially with another devotee of the Lord. And so it's our duty to be conscious. As Vaishnavis, we have to be conscious that we also don't hold up a bad view against the whole Vaishnava, Prabhu world, right? On the other side of it is, for me, the quality I was installed with was just if somebody responds to us in a certain way, we have to try not to mirror them in that same way, So, and that's very hard sometimes, extremely hard, but just to hold it together. Sometimes it means if you don't fight back in a situation, that other person will fight harder. And generally it is said that if somebody comes to you in animosity, one takes distance from them. In the material world, this is seen as like being a coward and running away. But in a Vaishnava way, it's understood differently in that we step away from a situation because we don't want to enter into that association. And when it talks about being careful with association, it's careful in all of our dealings. Sometimes we may have a friend who we love dearly, but we know when they are angry, everything is volatile. So sometimes it's good to give them space as well with their emotions and how we deal with things. We often hear that we're not to be angry also, but you'll see many examples like here. King Prithu is very angry at Mother Earth. Even the title of this, it's like when we began this, we see his eyes became red as the morning sun. He's so enraged. But still, we see the quality that he shows is at the very end, he listens to Mother Earth. He sees reason to the words that he says. Please.
It made me think about something that I was reading Bhakti Tirtha Swami's biography, and there's this moment when he's like very new in Krishna consciousness and he's just journeying, and he's like obviously been so involved in the civil rights movement and faced a lot of racism. So then he actually faced also racism when he came to the temple because he was like one of the few black devotees. And then when he brought this up to Prabhupada, he was like, Prabhupada, there's prejudice in your movement. And then he was like, yes, they have not understood it. They're on the bodily conception, but if you're affected by it, then you're also on the bodily conception. Like, so that was such a good answer. I feel like if somebody is actually acting not proper way to you, if you respond on their level, then you're not better actually.
Yes, You're not better than what you give. But does it also mean in Gita that we shouldn't do anything? No. Why not?
It just means that we still have to do something, not be passive, but we have to do it in a thoughtful way. Like you mentioned, all these nice Vaishnava qualities. So it's also not like Bhaktitirtha Swami just completely dropped it and was like, okay, I'm gonna stop fighting for like equality between the races. He just got a different approach to it, like to do it in a more peaceful way and in a more like how can we have unity instead of
diversity. Yeah. I mean conflict, right? Yeah, this is an interesting point again. One reaches out for balance. That in an environment where one doesn't maybe feel quite right or safe or unprotected, to find your inner space within that and to find a reasoning behind it. Usually what that does mean though is that you have to find some form of shelter, be it in your room or your internal space, before you're able to express whatever may be happening inside. And also to understand, like, it felt this message of Srila Prabhupada to Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, that it's still external. You know, if people are relating to us on an external way, I also get it all the time. If I had to say, I refer to myself as an English lady, but when you see me, especially in Vansari, oh, nice, Indian lady here. And I'm like, huh? Right, Indian. Aha, me, right, okay, Indian. Okay, well, I think I'm English. Well, that's also not a destiny. You know, it's all, but I can make joke of it internally, thinking, okay, this is my own thing, because I've also designated myself as an English lady. So now I'm presented with this. I'm neither one. Let me also try to understand this person who's in front of me beyond whatever their physical appearance is, or culture or nature like this. Like Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter of where we are born or what class or what gender we are. The moment that we take up to Krishna consciousness, this element goes beyond all of that, because internally we are spirit soul. And that is anyway this mix-up of the material world, that we have formed all of these designations, right? And beyond that, what is it? And that's something which I also have to ask myself. I don't mind talking a little bit of what's needed to make ladies feel protected, but essentially, for me, most important is seeing and trying to find Krishna in our lives on a daily basis, which is hard enough, right? Sometimes we have to keep trying at that. Did you have a question, or you just came to listen?
I just came.
You just came, sorry. I was going to put my husband on the spot, just to say. Yeah, so please think over this point. Dear Prabhus who are listening outward or anywhere else, please, 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 ladies also, please don't be offended by this topic area. It's a very delicate topic, this level of protection. It's not meant to make anyone feel that they've done anything wrong or not right, but just when this topic has come over behind the scenes so many times, it's nice just to put it a little bit in the public forum to try to understand. And from what the general consensus is a little bit, we're not completely sure of what this term protection truly means. We have a feeling, we can understand, okay, something's not quite there, but to actually express that, it should be that we maybe look a little bit deeper into it, we go a little bit more consciously into this direction. The problem that we maybe face is this pointing fingers. This person does this on the other side, you know, it's not about this. As devotees, we try to look, okay, what is it that can make one feel more grounded and safe in an environment, and work together at it. I'm very happy here in Simhachalam we are try to be as progressive as we can, and occasionally it comes back as feedback too, that, you know, we're sort of evolving temple. We're somehow, you know, we're not massive, that we are just for the public, and we're not tiny either. So in this way we still try to create a family feel here. and try to put Prabhupada's teachings into action, but it's like work in progress. I have to often quote it, we are not perfect, we are like in the shower. We are just getting cleaned up. Oh, nice, Priya, please, if you don't mind, Gita, to pass over.
Because it comes to me like about protection, so for me to I want to come to also to this point more philosophical point, that we need to researching protection in Krishna. Actually, we are we live in the temple and we serving Lord Narasimhadev. So this protection is like, for me, obvious that we have to researching protection in him, just because we live in the society and we can expect for everyone that everyone should be like, oh, take care on, because everyone have some problems. And I see now in Kali Yuga, like we expect protection from men, but men are sometimes like women.
Sometimes,
like men are sometimes like women, and women are sometimes like men. So what is it here? It's not. We can expect like now everyone is like in Satya Yuga or etc. etc. It has very nice qualities and give protection, etc. No, God always give protection because God is our husband, Krishna. Krishna actually is husband of everyone living entities. So we have to researching protection in him because he is ideal. We are not ideal here.
It's a very nice point, because Srila Prabhupada wanted especially the installation of Nrsingadev because to protect ISKCON, to protect the society, especially in places of Germany where there was a lot of proper anti-cult propaganda, problems with the police. So yeah, definitely in one level for sure, Nrsingadev or Krishna is our ultimate protection. However, we see we're not just here. It's not just me in my temple with Lord Nrsingadev. It's not just me closed off. No one else comes in. Don't speak to anybody else. So what happens then when we're in association of other people? Should we only be there in direct darshan of the Lord? No, right? I mean, I get what your point is, that we should see internally that the Lord is our protector. However, therefore, that is one of the main reasons the Matajis approached me. We've come to the temple for protection. We feel some protection under the Lord, but we're not feeling it generally outside. And I have to be honest and say sometimes the protection isn't just about problems with ladies. Sometimes the ladies have so many issues with the other ladies that again one is feeling unsafe. Because if you are fighting in your private space or something is happening, then also this level of so this is where somehow when we move beyond the neophyte level, we also see, right, Krishna beyond just the Murti form, right? So in this level, what is it? I think Ramananda put his hand up first, but yeah.
If I may.
Oh, please correct me.
No. It's not about correction. Has it be so loud? Do you not understand me?
No, but online you don't.
No, but we can turn it down anyway. I think first of all, it's the purport. It's women is only one part. They're the cows, the children, and the brahmanas. So one can see it from different points. And brahmanas mostly also, half of it are men. So I think first of all, the element of protection general is not there. It comes from above. And it doesn't come from, it's not a temple president. It starts with the ones who run the society. There is in Kali Yuga, there is no protection. There's mostly exploitation. And this includes also the men, because they don't feel protected. And if they're not protected, if they don't have the example of protection, they can't give it because they don't know what it is. And nice point what Rindasaki said. Yes, Krishna is our protector, but he puts a system in place called Varnashram Dharma, and Prabhupada wanted that we place this in, where Krishna has his forces who are protectors, who they called Kshatriyas, who are naturally protectors, and they have a need to protect. It comes just out of them. If you have different people who are not protectors, given the role as protectors, they will mess it up. Like a brahmana is not a protector, but therefore that's Krishna's system, the Varnashram system. And the more and more we take care of this and really find out, okay, who are the right people on the right points on society, internally in our ISKCON society, but of course it has to go also on a higher level of society, then this element of protection will be more and more not something what we have to enforce or demand. Speaking for women, as you said in the class, you feel sometimes insecure, to ask for protection, or even to address this topic. There was this brahmana in Dwarka who his sons died, and he just went to Arjuna and said, "Come on, how this can be? Something is wrong with you guys, because there's no protection." So they were not afraid to address the point. So, but because Arjuna was a natural protector, and he was not offended in his ego, and how you come to whatever, he immediately understood. Okay, here's a problem. So if you have natural protectors, they will not be in the ego offended. They will see, okay, here is something where I have to work on. That's just one more. And a last point, just many times in the temple, when boys are going in this direction that, I don't want to come for when Mataji does Guru Puja or whatever, that means they are aware that actually they like this girl. I mean, what's the? I mean, if the matter of the truth is, if an older lady or whatever, nobody cares from the younger boys. But if there's a younger lady, then they feel, oh my goodness, my chastity, or goes, my belt is loosening, So that's actually, the ladies can see it also as a compliment. I mean, that's not.
You're trying to give the reason point of view. I mean, it has been like this, that if there is an older Mataji doing the puja, then normally there is not so much feedback. So yes, on the first point, it's very wonderful. Thank you, because often I think also within our society, Kshatriyas are seen as like fighting, but actually, essentially, they are protectors. Their idea is to protect society. It is not that they're gearing up then just for a fight. They're looking how to keep the peace in one sense, but also to look after those in need. So that's something I think definitely makes sense. And certainly one will see in one's own life where different qualities may come up to look over it. For example, in England, it was often, in the child protection team, it was often ladies with the right understanding in most of these teams that looked over the children. It just seemed to be that mother propensity. It is not just that as women we cannot protect, it's just that you have to know it's not for us to go up against Prabhus, but there is that element that naturally comes into play as a mother to a child, for example. I think Gita, you had your hand up, is it still? And then Kishore. Gita var erst und dann Kishore kommt, okay. Thank you so much for it being interactive, it helps.
I also like this point about what type you're, because also some women are in the Kshatriya type and they also like to protect, but in a different way, like, so then when it comes to how to actually solve the issues, then it's a good point, like okay, there might be women that want to step up and speak up about it, but then they also have to speak to other men who also are in this nature, because then there can be a conversation.
Many ladies are not Kshatriya types, but they may be Brahminical or another type and have views on it, but they don't express it. So that's also interesting there, because it's maybe not to be expected that every person may, want to express it or challenge it, but it doesn't mean that they don't, that they feel okay with everything. So it's a balance up, I guess, of trying to manage these different systems. Yeah. Kishorikund also had a...
Danke. Ja, mir ist da noch was eingefallen. Und zwar, was Priya gesagt hat, fand ich sehr, sehr wichtig. Das hat mir zweimal vielleicht das Leben gerettet. Und
einen Moment, lass Gambhir bitte übersetzen.
What Priya was saying, I find it was very important, because maybe it saved 2 times already my life.
Und zwar habe ich den Tod zweimal ins Auge gesehen. Einmal in Bhubaneswar in Indien, als ich frühmorgens zur Mangal Arati wollte. Und einmal hier in der Nähe des Tempels. Willst du erstmal übersetzen?
I was looking death 2 times in the eyes, 1 time in Bhubaneswar in India and 1 time here in the temple.
Und ich hatte gar keine Zeit mehr, den Mantra zu sagen. Ich habe bloß gesagt, Krishna, 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 vielleicht 3-mal, mehr konnten. Und sofort war eine ganz andere Situation. Es war ein ganz anderes Weltbild da. Die Gefahr war weg. Ich habe mich umgedreht, die Gefahr war weg. Und ich habe mich wieder umgedreht und als die Gefahr weg war, war dann auch dieses Weltbild, weil was entstanden ist, auch genauso schnell wieder weg, wie es Krishna erschaffen hat. Also, und das hat mich so bestärkt, nicht mehr diese Angst zu haben. Also Krishna kann uns den besten Schutz geben überall. Bei uns früher, als ich Kind war, ungefähr bis zum Alter, ach so, sag mal erstmal.
I had no time to say the mantra in these dangerous situations, but when I said the mantra, everything changed.
She said Krishna, Krishna, Krishna.
Krishna,
This
Krishna,
man was
Krishna.
running towards her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bei uns früher war das so, ungefähr bis 1960 lief jedes Mal, wenn es abends dunkel wurde und die Laternen angingen, ein Wachmann durch die Straße, also ein Polizist. Und der ging da ein paar Stunden lang und so war die Bevölkerung, die da lang ging, war ja so eine nicht sehr befahrene Straße und damals gab es auch nicht so viele Autos und da fühlte man sich beschützt. Nachher...
When I was a young girl, in our town there was a policeman. When evening came, then he was out on the street to make sure the streets are safe.
Ja. Und nachher, als das dann weg war und ich war ungefähr 11, 12 Jahre, dann kam ich mit dem Zug von meiner Oma und ging da die Straße an und es wurde dann schon dunkel. Gut, die Laternen brannten, aber da hatte ich zweimal Erlebnisse, wo ich verfolgt wurde, bis ins Haus rein und ich wusste, bei mir war keiner zu Hause. Ich hätte nicht aufschließen können. Also solche Erlebnisse habe ich auch gehabt, aber ich hatte dann so einen Einfall und habe geklingelt und gerufen, Papa, und dann ist der eine weg, das andere war noch anders ausgegangen, hat mich noch mehr bedrängt da. Also die Gefahren, und dann hatte ich einen Onkel bei der Polizei und der hat gesagt...
Ich denke, sie kann nicht so viel erinnern, zum Übersetzen, tut mir leid.
Yeah, there were especially 2 cases when it was very dangerous in the evening and she came home and nobody was at home and she felt very unsafe.
Ja, und ich hatte einen Onkel bei der Polizei und der hat mir gesagt, wenn ihr wüsstet, was draußen los ist, ihr würdet euch gar nicht auf die Straße mehr trauen, beim Dunkeln.
And I had an uncle, he was policeman, and he said, if you would know what is happening outside on the streets, you would not dare to go out anymore.
Ja.
Okay, wir müssen bald.
Und also ich habe genug Erlebnisse gehabt und ich habe dann mich selbst verteidigt irgendwie, aber also die Gefahren, die sind immer da. Also wie gesagt, wenn ich Krishna im Kopf habe und sage Krishna, Krishna, das ist für mich der beste Schutz.
Thank you, Kishore-kun. This is the conclusion of what Kishore-kun was saying, which goes on Priyasaki's reply to that. Whatever happens, she said, if she always has Krishna in her head, then she has the protection that is there. So in a situation where we're also faced, we can also try to understand what Krishna is. This is more with when it's an acute, say, physical attack. When there is something which is more subtle, often it does require that it's a prayerful mood that we approach the Lord. And with our desires is how often it's that the world is created. So if we have a desire that we are looked after, that we are taken care of, that others are also well taken care of, in regardless of them being a Vaishnava or the Vaishnavi or whatever, then surely the Lord will make that happen. But sometimes I believe that desire has to be very strong within us. The prayer has to be there. Because sometimes that prayer for bad things seems to be easier to be stronger. If one knows when one goes, I hope this happens. But actually, there should be the desire in the other direction. Please, please let these ladies feel protected. Please, please let the Prabhus feel that they're also protected and nurtured. Please let it be harmonious for Srila Prabhupada, like this. Gita, you wanted to say something?
And on this point also, that not that when we address things that really bother us or that are really wrong, that we just get disconnected from our relationship with Krishna, because I also notice with myself that happens when you are actually really upset, then you create a distance with Krishna, and then this is just not good for your spiritual progress when you're in this mood. So that's why also on Priyasaki's point that we should remember Krishna in everything that happens, because there's really not nice instances where actually bad things happen to devotees, and then they kind of lose faith over that because they forget Krishna in the picture.
And you can understand it as a test of faith. We've heard this also in other circles, but this test of faith, if everything happens so peacefully and wonderfully in our lives, maybe we'll also be happy in our material world. But actually often these tests come up, these heavy tests or smaller tests on a daily basis, which show us that who are you thinking of? Think of yourself, or are you thinking of Krishna? Where are your thoughts and what lies inside of you? And in this way, sometimes we'll get it wrong, go down the wrong trail. But there's always that level to also put ourselves back on track and think, okay, where is Krishna in this? Where was Krishna in this situation? What was it that I needed to learn, often to break free of some cycle of karma, whatever it may be? Essentially, if I am not able to chant attentively, I can only look internally for this reason, right? If some incident has happened, it's still, this is a level of self-empowerment, one can say, but actually in every moment I have this ability to think of Krishna. Even if I can't think of him, let me pray that I cannot think of him. Often these prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur are very deep. They're not talking that he is so surrendered, they're talking about, please help me because I'm so fallen. In this mood, then things can change so much, because actually the direction is always should be direction Krishna, right? So there is those elements, a balance up. We should not be blind to what's going on around us and the things that we can do, but they should not be the center of our lives. So I think it's about looking at the bright side of what we have, everything that we have, the Lord has given us, and seeing this side too. And in an element though too, for example, if you are chanting and you've been chanting for many, many years, you could be like, yes, I chant. But sometimes one does need to see on the other side, I've been chanting, but my mind is completely elsewhere around this. So one sometimes does need to look for some correction. And in this way also see with these comments of Matajis or elderly or children, one has to look to put some sort of correction in place to help things also develop better. You know, I don't want to ignore that there is elements there, but it should not, as we hear, should not be overtake our whole lives. Sometimes the simplicity is difficult to balance up. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki